Today I'll be covering Umbris. Recently he did a video on Screw Attack's top 10 worst Sonic characters, and there's a number of issues I have with it.
Number 10.
A forewarning here, you're about to see more than a couple of characters with annoying voices. That's the main reason we're starting off with Charmy B.
Yeah, beach time! I'll take the lead! I'll take the lead! I'll take the lead! Here we go! Enemies up ahead!
Have you had enough yet? Too bad! This is how he is for every game he's in. You'd think that him being a honeybee would be a blessing, since that means he's supposed to die after just one sting. But no! He can't even give us that! And I know he looks adorable and all, but at the end of the day, he's a 2'3", 22-pound bee! I pray to God above that I be taken off of this earth by literally anything else.
Okay, how does this voice pick up a bad character?
That's a simple answer that I'm surprised you didn't see. A character with an annoying voice can ruin one's enjoyment of them as a whole. If you can't listen to a character speak without being annoyed, then their actual character traits can't be easily picked up upon without being connected to something negative, which to Screw Attack, Charmy obviously has that problem.
And what does his weight and height have to do with anything?
Considering they connect Charmy's height and weight to wanting to be taken off the earth, one can decipher that this guy from Screw Attack is either afraid of bees, or is merely using it as a joke and not much more, the most likely option being the latter. However, if it is the former, the fear can be picked up using the context clues of the very clip you play, and they really don't need to go into an in-depth explanation as to why that's a problem. Actually, the past two interjections I've made will both be reoccurring throughout Umbris's video. So prepare yourself.
You don't explain how Charmy's voice is annoying, just like later entries, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
Do they need to explain how the voice is annoying? An annoying voice is a very subjective thing to pick up on, and obviously Charmy's voice annoys Screw Attack. What else is there to explain? You may not agree with the idea that Charmy's voice is annoying, but they do. There's nothing more here to explain.
So why is he a quote-unquote bad character?
Because he's annoying. Annoying is a negative trait.
Number 9.
Even in a series like Sonic, there's nothing wrong with having an edgy character to stand out from the rest. When Shadow the Hedgehog was introduced, we were on board with his rocket shoes and his frowny face all the way up until he died at the end of the game. But then he undied so that Sega could push him for years to come.
Hate to be a grammar Nazi here, but undied can either imply Shadow became part of the undead, or Shadow came back to life. Which the better way to describe that would be, but then he got resurrected, or revived.
Keep this in mind for later. This will be important.
It wouldn't have been a real issue, except all Shadow's done since then is be a whiny, emo cartoon character. And why does Shadow have to be painted as Sonic's forever rival when we already had Knuckles?
You go on to say how Shadow is a whiny, emo cartoon character, but never tell us how Shadow is one. Now let me bring up how you say Knuckles was Sonic's rival before Shadow was, but here's the thing. Shadow is Sonic's arch rival, and Knuckles was just a rival.
That debunks nothing. Knuckles was still a rival of Sonic in the earlier games and was then changed to an ally, of which was later filled in with Shadow the Hedgehog. Screw Attack sees this as arbitrary, as they could have just kept Knuckles as the rival. Just because Shadow turned out to be the arch-rival, doesn't get rid of Screw Attack's viewpoint of it being arbitrary in nature.
Keyword is was, because Knuckles is now Sonic's friend instead of a rival. Early on in Sonic Adventure 2's development, it was decided that one of the main themes of the game would be the dichotomy between good and evil, and to help explore that, the creators came up with new characters that would both assist Dr. Eggman and challenge the established cast of heroes.
And where's the evidence to support this claim? If you're going to make a big claim like this, it would be best to show a screen cap or video clip of something the developers said to support it. Otherwise it seems like you're making up something to excuse something that Screw Attack sees as arbitrary anyways.
Shadow is also more evil-like than Knuckles. Shadow is still shown to be evil in a way in the cases of Sonic Forces and other games, Knuckles, from my point of view, is a character mainly made to add a third playable option in the original trilogy. So maybe that explains Knuckles' sudden character change.
Maybe, but your whole point is built off of a guess at best. Given how in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, Knuckles was a main villain and was kept that way until the tail end of Sonic and Knuckles, something tells me that this guess was just pulled from air and use, again, to try and describe away a problem that Screw Attack has with Shadow the Hedgehog. Now, what you could have done was explain that the reason Knuckles was no longer a villain is because he found out Eggman betrayed him in Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and was then rescued by Sonic after being entrapped by Eggman, which was a big story aspect of Sonic and Knuckles. But even then that wouldn't inherently get rid of Screw Attack's complaint, as just because there's a reason doesn't make the complaint go away. But it would have at least been better than, maybe this is it, I think.
Shadow's pointless resurrection, not
Pointless resurrection? Shadow never really died, but went unconscious. Heck, Rouge and Omega found him in a fucking status pod. Hate to be a grammar Nazi here, but undied can either imply Shadow became part of the undead, or Shadow came back to life. Which the better way to describe that would be, but then he got resurrected, or revived.
So, we're just going to ignore this then, Umbrus? You seem to have no issue with Screw Attack mentioning how Shadow was revived earlier minus the wording, so why address this now when it was already established that Shadow had died? You're not even incorrect, but addressing it like you did, all this does is potentially confuse the audience who never played Sonic Adventure 2 or Sonic Heroes.
I guess that Shadow can't be brought back because he's a bad character.
Even in a series like Sonic, there's nothing wrong with having an edgy character to stand out from the rest. When Shadow the Hedgehog was introduced, we were on board with his rocket shoes and his frowny face all the way up until he died at the end of the game. But then he undied so that Sega could push him for years to come.
Screw Attack's issues didn't come in until after he was revived, showing they must have thought Shadow was a good character leading up to that point, not before it, like your point here implies. Now I'll be skipping over the Sonic OC segment. I'm fairly certain it's a joke entry that Umbrus is taking seriously, but I have no confirmation of that being the case, so I don't care at the end of the day.
Number 7.
Sonic Adventure 2 has to have one of the very best opening levels of any game ever. There's just one thing that's objectively horrible about it. Omochow.
Hi, I'm Omochow. I'm here to help.
This guy will not shut up. He is so determined to pester you, he'll fly after you regardless of how much danger you're in. Omochow is a lot like Fi from Skyward Sword if Fi read every single one of his lines like that chubby kid from Up. It's like he thinks you're so much of an idiot that he has to talk down to you like you're 3.
It's almost like Sonic is a kid's game.
This debunks nothing. If Screw Attack still finds Omochao to be annoying, then explaining why he's annoying wouldn't change that.
The original version of Sonic Adventure 2 was rated E for everyone. Sure, it was changed in the re-released versions, but still.
Then wouldn't that hurt your own point? If the ESRB rating system boosted up the rating like you claim, then wouldn't that mean the demographic wasn't entirely just for kids? That's even taking out how I can't find this re-release's rating, so I don't even know if what you're explaining is correct.
Omochow is there so you learn the basics of the game. A lot of new Sonic fans came from Sonic Adventure 2, so don't see why they wouldn't have a character to help you.
This continues to debunk nothing. Tutorial characters don't require and shouldn't be expected to be annoying, hand-holding, or condescending. All complaints that Screw Attack has about Omochao, I'm fairly certain they wouldn't care if Omochao just gave a general breakdown of how the game worked without always speaking or talking down to you as if you were 3. So far all this sounds like is general excuses, not actual arguments.
I will never understand why Sega keeps bringing back Omochow, but not the Chow Garden.
Because new players will come in not knowing how the game works and whatnot.
You act as if Sonic can only do a tutorial one way.
Number 6.
The main reason that Cream the Rabbit exists is just so that she can fly Amy around in Sonic Heroes.
No! She was designed as a character for beginner players when she was introduced in Sonic Advance 2. Her role on Team Rose is for the fly-type character that all teams have. You can argue that Charmy is the same for Team Chaotix.
To this day, that is still the most notable thing she's really done. Well, that and being insanely broken in her debut game, Sonic Advance 2.
Wow, couldn't had Let Screw Attack finish explaining Cream the Rabbit's character a bit more? Because they even went on to explain the Sonic Advance 2 aspect. Now, to actually address the rest of your point, once again, nothing you said to explain Cream the Rabbit's role actually debunks anything or negates anything that Screw Attack claims. Screw Attack sees Cream as a useless character because all she's good for, within game, is to fly around Team Rose within Sonic Heroes, implying that Cream has no actual character outside of that role. For you to explain that is her role, only enforces the idea Cream has no useful characteristics within game. Also, using Charmy as an example of another character that is this way doesn't help anything either, as they don't like Charmy, so what would this change? All it would do is reinforce their complaints to how Charmy is a bad character.
And does anyone else think it's weird that 6-year-old Cream is always in the same stuff as Rouge? I can understand Cream appealing to little kids, but Rouge appeals to, the dark corners of DeviantArt.
What? Please explain what stuff you are talking about?
Do you not see some of the images on screen? The joke is to poke fun at how busty and easily sexualized Rouge the Bat is to people, probably particularly furries, if I were to guess. However, it's a joke that you're asking them to explain.
Christ's sake, how come every popular YouTuber doesn't explain their reasons these days?
That's a very gross overgeneralization that stems from you not getting a joke.
Yep, I think we could all use a little bit of Jesus right now. And if that wasn't enough, say it with me, boys and girls. Cream has annoying voice syndrome.
Tails, I'm afraid they're coming from behind, too.
God, how is it always so squeaky?
Because she's 6. On average, puberty starts at 10 to 11 for girls. Cream hasn't gotten to that point yet, so Sega and Sonic Team look for an actor who can pull off a squeaky voice. The clip you show was from Sonic X, so why not show clips from the games?
Man, how come every commentator doesn't show off evidence or explain things these days? All joking aside, would it matter either way? This particular example shows off Cream's voice to the audience in one instance to give an example of how Cream's voice annoys them, and whether or not she's a child, wouldn't negate this either. This seems to be the common theme with this video. Explain why something is this way and expect that to negate the criticisms that Screw Attack has.
Number 5.
Sonic Adventure has aged like Jinko jeans. It was cool at the time, but looking back on it now, shows us just how dumb we really were. But even in 1999, nobody was gonna stick their neck out for Big the Cat. If you wanted to see the epic finale to the Sonic Adventure story, you had no choice but to play through Big's missions, and we all know how those go. Just fishing for a stupid frog forever. You know, the thing people play Sonic the Hedgehog for. Not even John St. John, the dude who originally voiced Big, likes the character. In fact, John hated Big so much that he left the role forever. But that's what you do when you realize that you've been cast as the Jar Jar Binks of voice acting.
Oh, now what am I gonna do?
Speaking of which...
So, no reason as to why Big's levels are bad? Just gonna talk about John St. John's role? Okay then. I guess if the actor hates the character means that they are bad and no other reasons need to be provided.
My question is more, why do Big's levels affect him as a character? Because it wouldn't. But that aside, considering they're bringing up the voice actor for Big, it's safe to assume that they're back onto Big's annoying voice. I'm going to skip ahead a bit more. Umbris makes a few alright points.
Silver got some random tip-off in the future that Sonic was going to destroy the world, and instead of using his time travel powers to very easily verify this claim, he goes back in time to just try to kill Sonic anyway. Also, this is petty, but Silver's face looks like a palm tree leaf. Go ahead and try defending Silver in the comments if you want to, but if you want to change my mind, just realize that it's no use.
So, basically, what you're saying is Silver spikes look dumb and look like a palm leaf. Oh, okay then. You also went on this pointless tangent about people defending Silver. Like, what?
So that was what was called a setup to a joke, Umbris. You seem to not understand those a lot throughout this video, but even had this not been a joke, you don't explain how the tangent was pointless, which for a video that's been getting onto Screw Attack's case for not explaining anything is rather hypocritical, nor do you even attempt to address anything. You just explain that they call Silver's spikes dumb before glossing over how the joke after the fact was pointless. Just explaining what happened to the audience is useless in of itself because we can see what just happened and understand it without you repeating their point.
Number 1.
Hey, guess what? We're still not done with human characters. Let's go back to Sonic 06 one last time. If Princess Elise isn't in need of being rescued for the 1000th time, she's doing the cliched, oh look at me, I'm a helpless anime damsel, look at my prayer hands, I'm clashing them together because all I do is watch on the sidelines. That's it! That's all she does! Oh yeah, I did forget about the part where she kisses a giant dead blue rat.
Sonic is a hedgehog, not a rat.
It joke. Honestly, this video is essentially done. Umbris here spent a good portion of 15 minutes either taking jokes way too seriously or trying to explain away problems, as if the reasons things were done the way they were excuse the problems. I have no idea if this is typical for them, but this is easily the sloppiest work I've seen thus far, and I covered Kong E. Muller. Assess what's being said better in your future commentaries, else you wind up taking every joke seriously again.